Hi everybody, it's Amy at Crafty Cat, and I finally did it. I made a junk journal using some direction from Nik The Booksmith, her beginner's journaling courses. I mainly used how to stitch in the signatures because I've just never done that before. And as I'm sure you guys all remember, I showed you this book. If you've seen any of my other videos, I did the whole gluing pages together. And I mean, a lot of it's my fault. I glued too many pages together. I made the book too thick with too many goodies because that's what I like to do. But anyway, so it all like broke here, fell off the binding back here. I just think sewing in signatures is a much better way to go because that is a bummer. And it didn't happen until I was almost finished with the book. So yeah, anyways, that was a disaster. And then I didn't want to do it for a long time after that because I didn't know how to sew in signatures. And but I finally did it, so I'm excited. So my inspiration again is Nik The Booksmith, and I kind of did something kind of like her classic challenge. I know that challenge is over and I'm not trying to be part of that. It's just I liked how they kind of tell a story with the journal. So without further ado, I used The Adventures of Madeline and Louisa, and this isn't like a literary classic. It's not truly what most people would consider a classic. It's just kind of a classic to me. It's a children's book, and at first when my grandmother gave it to me, I didn't understand or like get it, but I totally get it now because these girls like to what they call entomologize. They like to go out looking for bugs and things. They were kind of maybe what you would consider naturalists, and in the Victorian era. And this is a picture of the two girls. And they didn't want to do their studies, and their parent or their father could never keep a governess, and he was an admiral in the Navy. And so they often just got to do what they wanted, and they were the youngest of quite a few children. I'm not sure how many children their parents had, but and it doesn't say anything anywhere about their mom, so I'm assuming she probably passed away maybe with the last child or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to read this to you. The lady who wrote the book, well, a lot of it's stuff from these two girls, but it's their niece. She says, my great-great-aunts, Madeline and Louisa Paisley, were born in 1848 and 1847 respectively, the youngest children in a large Victorian family. Their father, Admiral Sir Thomas Paisley, Bart C. or KCB, had been flag captain to the Admiral of the Fleet in the Crimean War, and during the years covered by the album was Admiral Superintendent of Davenport Dockyard, and then Commander-in-Chief at Portsmouth. The pictures in the album were drawn by the girls between the ages of 12 and 16. I do not know why they chose to draw themselves rather like middle-aged spinsters, but presumably it was a private joke. Whatever their reasons, I think it adds a delightful touch of eccentricity to the humor of their most popular or original album. Sorry, that word always gets me. So there they are. But they drew really funny pictures of themselves, kind of like old maids. And there they are catching a very large wasp. And that's the other thing. They draw very big bugs and much bigger than themselves in a lot of the pictures. So anyway, this is what I came up with for that. And I wanted to keep the cover really simple, and I've never taken any of Nik The Booksmith's classes on how to do this, so I kind of just winged it myself. And I'm sure there's an easier way to do it because I tend to take the hardest way, and it definitely isn't perfect, but I'm not going to totally point out all my mistakes. But anyway, here's the girls again. That's just a picture that I got off the internet, and here's a little one of them with the dragonfly, and I did a little lace here, very large dragonfly, their nets. And then I used a whole bunch of papers from these books, and these are new like reprints. So I did not make any copies of these because they're copyrighted and you can't do that. So, but I did use the actual pictures inside, and they're very, very cool pictures. So I used both the vintage botany prints and the vintage mushroom prints. And they're meant to like, you can cut them out and hang them on your wall, you know, frame them, hang them up. And I also used some vintage botanical floral illustrations for coloring. And, but I didn't color them. You could though, I could. So this is one of the vintage botany prints. So I cut that, and I actually glued it, and also sewed right here, it onto one of the coloring prints. So that's what you're going to see a lot of through this. And then this is just coffee dyed lined paper. And all the pictures in this little part are not real. I mean, they're not the actual pictures of their family members. This is just how I like to see it, because I'm thinking of this like their little journal. So this is their mom and their father, the Admiral, and their sister Georgie, who they often were cared for by her because, again, like I said, they could not keep a governess. And so poor Georgie ended up taking care of them a lot of the time. And the girls have captured a beetle and put it in a tea bag, like nice English girls, right? So I'm putting the flashlight here because you can't see that beetle. I can see it, but on camera I knew you wouldn't be able to, so I'm just shining the light right there. Hope that's not too distracting, but you can kind of see like the legs and whatever. So they captured a beetle and put it in a tea bag. And then I loved this picture. It's by Joe Whaley, and I got it off of Pinterest. I'm not trying to steal anybody's work, but I just loved it because it's the two, looks like, you know, Victorian ladies with a big huge butterfly in their face. This is just a tag, so there's a little tuck spot. More paper, some stamping, a doily. This is off the internet. Some of their pictures you can find on the internet, like on Pinterest, and there's a few other websites that I copied it off of, but this is their capturing of the dragonfly, and you can see how little they are and how big the dragonfly is. I just love these pictures, and even though I didn't understand the book when I was little, I really loved the pictures. But now I understand that all they wanted to do was go out and catch bugs and be in nature, so this is just kind of a funny little thing, maybe a representation of their father as a butterfly or fairy. And then this is just an envelope. I tucked in the top part, I coffee stained it, and this is like those books that tell you information about different plants. And it's not vintage, it's just one, I just coffee stained it because I don't have any vintage pieces of that. And then here's another, these are all coffee stained, and this is her, one of them, carrying a flower, and I stitched that in. It's just a little tuck spot. And another little tuck spot. This picture was funny, I found this on Pinterest. It just kind of reminded me of something they might get a kick out of. Now they are trying to catch a giant caterpillar. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, just more paper. And then just a little collage down here. This is pattern paper and a little piece of cotton fabric and flowers. Another doily paper. This is a little like collage, but you know, things to do. It's just like a little card that I made. And that goes over here. Oh, and here's the other side of that file folder that had pictures of her family. Little tuck spot. I hand stitched down here. I do not do a lot of sewing, so this has been an experience for me as well. I did do a little bit on my daughter's machine just to try it out, and I do like it a lot, but I probably should have done more for more hanging out stuff. But I found this vintage embroidery thread in my grandmother's sewing box, and it's from the 40s or something. They were like 5 cents each. But anyway, I just really liked the colors. They were really good for this type of thing, and I left the tails of those hanging out. I just hand stitched it along there. And mushrooms, and I found this picture in National Geographic, and it was way too shiny, and I mean it's still pretty shiny, but I sanded it, inked it. I did some hand stitching along here, and as you can see, I'm not going to quit my day job, but there's that. And then this is one of the coloring sheets. I figured it would be nice to be able to color that. And I may be doing like pages in this and taping them. And there's another little collage page using the botany prints from that book that I showed, and the coloring. This is just cotton, a little leaf. So. And I just sewed a piece of paper all the way along this piece of like drawing paper that I coffee stained, and there's some ornithology pictures, and then just a little card. This is a tea bag that I stamped and watercolored, just a little thanks card that I tucked in there. lovely Victorian lady. And this was an actual book, but it was in really bad shape. It had gotten water spilt on it or something, so the pages were already wrinkled, but I did stain them a little bit. But the pictures in it were very pretty. Little collage. And then this I did Tracy Fox's method of eco-printing, where you hammer the flowers and stuff, and you can kind of see it. I mean, it really kind of came out cool. It's super faint, but I like it. It's a morning glory, and I'm not sure what those little flowers are called, but they're little bunches of flowers. But you can see like the outline of the morning glory. So that came out pretty cool. And then I took pieces when I cut this paper because it didn't fit in here right. So I cut strips off, and these are some of the strips. There's like 3 strips here to make a pocket on this page. Use everything. Don't, you know, another stamp. This is tissue paper. So it's like a tissue paper pocket with a little tuck spot there. And this really got, I think it's because I coffee stained it and I set it out in the sun, and it really took the coffee staining. It looks cool, I think. And then I did do some of the Tracy's Eco printing again. This was a trumpet vine, so I put the leaf and the flower, put it together, and then hammer it with a hammer. And on this side it came out really cool. You can see the leaves and everything, but the other side, but because of the coffee staining, which is fine, because I kind of knew that wasn't going to come out perfect. But this side came out really cool. And that's the other side of the tissue paper. And this is the other side of that page with the extra paper pieces, strips, glued on to make a pocket. And then this is in the back of the book. It's Madeline, I guess, did a little book of British butterflies and moths, but it's not in there. It just is in here like this. Let's see, that's what it looks like. And so I just printed it out, cut it out, and made like my own little book. So there's a moths, and this little tuck spot. And I'm not going to sell this. This is just for me. I know you're not supposed to make copies of books and whatnot, but that book was printed in '80, I believe. So, and I don't think it's in print anymore. You can find them on Amazon, but they're $50. So, and I, of course, would never cut mine apart. I love that book. There's a little belly band. Got some moths in here. And this is a book page. This is, I found this one on Pinterest, but it's in the book too. But it's just a crack up because this giant caterpillar, and there's their horse. You can see how big they draw everything, and she's wrangling it, and I don't know. It's a great story and great pictures. So they couldn't keep a governess, so they were often on their own. And their sister Georgie sometimes watched them, but they didn't care much for Georgie, it sounds like, and so they would sneak off a lot by themselves. And I got this idea from Tracy Fox. That's just a print I had. But she sews paper into an envelope, which I thought was brilliant. So this opens all up. This is a page out of National Geographic again that I stained and sanded to just kind of rough it up. And then this is an old piece of, well, not an old piece of paper. It's coffee stained paper. And the same with the ones that are inside there. But I love that idea. That's great. So it's like a little journaling place. Thank you, Tracy. It's awesome. And another little book page. I made a little pocket out of this one, so there's, you know, some fabric sewn on here. This is a big, heavy metal button. It's kind of neat on both sides. If you can see, bring it a little bit closer. And then one of those bulb pins on there to hold it. Another stamp. Paper. This is another, this was a grape leaf that I did the eco printing with, and it's really faint, so I doubt you're going to catch it on the camera, but I can faintly see the veins of the leaf. And then on this side I did a Black-Eyed Susan. Don't do those. Because when I smashed it, all the liquid that came out of the inside just kind of made a big smear. This looks cool with the petals, but that just made a big smear. But it's okay. I kind of think of it like the girls were out picking flowers and pressing them and whatever, and so that's what they ended up with. These pictures on here, these two right here, are by Travis Louis, And he does all his own pictures. He doesn't use old pictures. He does, from what I can tell, drawings or paintings of Victorian people, but then he does crazy things to them. And some are really even crazier than these. But these were perfect for this book because, as you can see, it's a Victorian lady with a dragonfly on her head, and this one has a big beetle on her head. So that's just kind of a funny little thing. I thought if Madeline and Louisa could have seen this, they probably would have got a big kick out of that. So, but if you want to see some pretty interesting art, he does all different stuff, so check him out. He's on Pinterest, and then he has his own website too. This is one of the albums that I did in one of my other videos where I show how to fold my Communicate album that I made, and this one out of just a roll of craft paper, just this kind of paper like this. So that's what this little spot is made out of. And so this slides out, and it's just a little, see, this is what the girls really looked like, and they drew themselves as old maids, which is kind of funny, but I love this. There's the old net, and I got this off the internet, and it says forget me not. There's that little tuck spot, and then this one, if you want to watch that video, I'll link it below, but there's a tuck spot here and then another tuck spot, so there's like two little pockets in there. So I have the bees in one, this bird in another, and this is also in the same one that the bird is in, and it's just for writing or taking a note or whatever. It's just a stack of paper that I stapled. And so that's a tuck spot. This picture's hilarious. I thought that the girls would have got a kick out of that if they saw it. It's like a scientist or an entomologist or something, but there are butterflies stuck all over the wall behind him. I just thought it's so crazy, and he's got his magnifying glass, and there's just butterflies everywhere, on the table, on his chair. It's just funny, so I thought they would like that. More paper, more of the eco printing, faux eco printing, however you want to call it. Stamp that I kind of added some water to with Tim Holtz Distress Inks, and I got a new color. I'm using Vintage Photo, so everybody doesn't have to look at the same exact one. Not that there's that huge of a difference, but anyway, there's that. This is the other side of that paper bag album, and there's tuck spot, another tuck spot. This is one of their pictures with the giant caterpillar, and that says Grand Discovery of a Hitherto Unknown Larva, and those are notes that came directly out of their diaries. And then I thought maybe this, I just made this kind of like because these are Tim Holtz paper dolls, and so is the gentleman in the front with the wings. This is maybe their governess, or one of their many governesses that they had. And so they put a beetle on her head, and here's a big beetle coming up to get her. So I just fussy cut those out and glued them on there. And then that's the other little tuck spot. So after not being able to keep a governess, their father hired Mr. Mitchell, who was an artist, and so he was to teach them art. And so as you can see, he's busily just sitting there, probably painting or sketching a quick picture of the lake and all its beauty, and the girls are busy catching giant bugs. And there's this big fly coming to get Mr. Mitchell. Their dog's in the water. It said even when Joe fell in, and the words go down like that. That's another thing they do throughout the book. It's just very cute. And then a little journal spot. It's definitely worth checking out if you can find the book. And then I found these on Pinterest. They're ladies, like Victorian ladies, and they've got on, sorry, I'm bumping my camera all over the place. I just want you to be able to see. She's like dressed in a beautiful dress, but it's got butterflies all over it, and butterfly wings, and a butterfly on her head. And the one above it, she's like a wasp or a bee. See the body, and then there's wings coming out. She's got the antennae. I thought they would get a kick out of those. And then, so they kept them. Maybe they're thinking we would like to have gowns like that. And that's one of the coloring pages back there. I just use those just like maybe scrapbook paper or whatever. And I will put a link below for Amazon, so if you're interested in the botanical prints or the coloring pages or whatever, you can find it there. This is a large butterfly. I just had this in my stash. I don't even remember where I got it, but I kind of just did it, glued it with its wings down and open in here so that it sticks up a little. And this is another little tuck spot for the girls. They can put their little cards of interest and little butterfly. And this is one where they're carrying very large flowers. And it says, near the crag where were more exciting than any we had seen in Davenport. So they really liked the flowers there, rather than in Davenport where their father was. That's one of the botanical prints again. And that's the coloring page. There's a mushroom from the mushroom book of botanical prints. Here's one of the girls catching the large caterpillar. And then this is just some entomology pictures that I found and roughed it up and put it in here like they're out looking for specific bugs. And then this picture's funny. It's two girls, and I don't know how well the camera's going to catch this. Hopefully okay. But they're kind of dressed like grasshoppers. I thought that was funny. But they sort of have, it looks like grasshopper heads even on their heads. So anyway, I thought they would get a kick out of that. Here's another faux eco printed page. This came out better. It was a Morning Glory, and it just looks really cool the way it kind of wept up into the paper. There's a little tuck spot, and this is a calling card with ships on it. I thought that was, maybe it's their father's calling card, so they kept it in their journal. And that's the other side of the Morning Glory. And then this has a real flower tucked into the envelope. It's a vellum envelope, and then that is just a paper butterfly. That's not a real butterfly, but I thought, you know, that's kind of an interesting little thing. Maybe they had these little envelopes and they would collect specimens and keep them. So, and another little text spot with a journaling card. And the rest of that eco print, or not eco print, but botany print. This again is another part of that dragonfly picture that I found. And this says Entomology in Sport by Lovers of the Science, to which is added Entomology in Earnest. I thought the girls would like that, and I found that little thing on Pinterest as well and just printed it out. And then another little tuck spot back here. And then I did the two large tuck spots on these. So there's like a card stuck in there. You could put, you know, little notes or pictures or whatever. So this is just going to be my personal journal, but it's my first one, and I'm so excited because it worked. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but for a first time at actually sewing in signatures and covering the whole outside, because it was like a crazy orange colored book. So, and then under this I put a clipping from National Geographic magazine, and it's easier for me to see than, I don't think the camera is going to pick it up, but there's just leaves and stuff back there, so you can just kind of see the veins, and so it's just super simple. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I will put links to Nik The Booksmith for her beginning journaling classes where I learned to sew in signatures. I didn't get this from Nik The Booksmith. I don't know how she does hers, so I don't know. But anyway, because I haven't taken any of her classes. And then thanks again to Tracy Fox. Oh, and also Gail Agosti. I'm not really sure, Augusti, how you say her name. But she coffee stains her lined paper in a notebook, you know, composition notebook that's all attached together because the pages are sewn together. So then when you undo all the sewing and take them out of the composition notebook, you have pages that are attached, so they're easier to sew into your signatures. So you don't have to try to like either put your paper sideways or use smaller pieces or whatever. They're the size of the composition notebook. So that worked really well. So thank you, Gail, for that wonderful idea. Again, if you have any questions or comments, put them down below, and please, please, please subscribe. Have a great day.